discovered. And I have been living this life a long time. Not saying that I'm an expert, but let me just tell y'all, as people are popping on, a little bit about myself. Because we have so many new people all the time that it's hard to update people and for people to kind of put it together, like who's who and how this group even started. Okay, so I want to tell each and every one of you that I'm right along here with you with having an incarcerated loved one. My son is out now, thank God, after 6 years. But I've lived the life so long. I'm in so deep now. I'm not leaving any of you. And this is just what I do. This is what I love to do. This is what I've had a passion to do years ago. I'm going to do a new testimony video soon. But years ago, I decided to change my life around and get my GED, go on to college when I was 24. I graduated right before I turned 30. And I tell you this to tell you, I had the passion for criminal justice before all this really happened to me. Well, I'm not going to say before. It's probably what drove me. My son's dad and I were together, and he started going in and out when I was about 16, and I'm almost 50. So I've been kind of living this life for a long time. So I'm going to just share with you tonight some things that I want y'all to share too, okay? I want y'all to share, and let's talk about some things that we have done. Yes, John was okay. John King is who Lane is asking about. He, that's another topic, but yes, definitely. He is okay. I'll message you about him, Lane, for sure. Thank you for asking. Hey, Courtney. So anyway, so I don't want to lose y'all. You know what I mean? Y'all stay with me. But Lane, thank you for being so supportive of him. It means a lot to him. So he hasn't had any stamps, but, I'll message you. So, things you can do to help your loved one when they become locked up. First thing is take things with a grain of salt, okay? What I mean by that, and I'm not saying, oh, don't be serious or don't, it is serious. But you cannot, don't blow it out. You know what I'm saying? You've got to stay, hey, Darcy, you've got to stay calm. Maybe I need to reword that. Is stay calm as you can, okay? And I understand it brings on so many different feelings, but I promise you, your loved one's going to say things they don't mean. They're going to suggest that you do things that they don't mean. They are going to reach for anything they can. I mean, there can be people who go in for, a really long felony and, they're looking at a lot of time and, my son just came in. But they're looking at a lot of time, but they still think that there's a way that they can get out, a way that they can work it, laws that are changing. You have to remember that they are listening to other inmates, okay? That happens so much. And when you ladies, and men say, they're pushing you away, they're shunning you, they're telling you, to move on, to go, and it's really hurting your feelings. You have to remember, don't take that to heart. I know a lot of women have said, well, my man's not going to talk to me like that. You've got to remember, don't take it to heart, okay? They are going to say and do things that they normally would not do. Okay, I want to share something with y'all real quick. So my family and I just got back from Texas 2.5 weeks. 2.5 weeks. We just spent 18 days in Texas, and prior to that, we spent 6 days in Myrtle Beach for my daughter's dance nationals. So we slept from bed to couch to chair to, wherever we could at the different families' house. And I was so out of my realm. I never woke up the whole time I was there. Okay. Like I never woke up. I was just like in a fog, in a daze. We were eating different times of the day. We were eating, we weren't drinking the water we used to drink. We weren't eating the fruits and vegetables we're used to eating. And my body was so out of whack. And so was my whole family. Your body knows, okay? So you have to remember, it's going to take, I would say, about 60 days to really just start to adjust to a situation, okay? So if your loved one goes in and they're like freaking, they're talking fast and they're even maybe throwing out a cuss word at you or something that you don't like, don't take it to heart, okay? Once they've been there a little bit and things aren't looking good or whatever, you know what I mean? Don't take it to heart. But once they've been there a little bit, they should adjust, okay? If they've been there a while and they're still talking crazy, yes, I think then, but my personal opinion, of course, but I've lived this for a very long time. And I used to, I'd get so mad. I'd be like, why is he talking like that? Why does he call me, but he's talking to all his buddies in the background? Does that ever happen to y'all? Don't take it to heart, okay? They have to fit in. They have to, they have to be, we can still go to our room. We go, well, we're doing the time too. I get that. But we can go to the bathroom when we want. We can take a shower when we want. We can excuse ourselves from the room and cry when we want. Yes, it's gut-wrenching for us, but not like it is for them. It's a fact. It's not, okay? That's not an opinion. It's a fact. They're out of their realm. They're not in their, what they're normally, their routine. They're not feeling it. So they're in shock. They're in trauma. We're in trauma, but they're in trauma. So my first piece of advice, because that's basically what this is tonight, is don't take everything to heart. Okay. That's one thing you can do for your loved one. Okay. Another thing you can do for your loved one is don't worry them with things, okay? There's nothing they can do. And I'm not saying don't involve them. I'm not by any means saying take the weight of the world on your shoulders and you deal with it. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying don't, something that they can't control, why freak them out about it? Why freak them out? Yes, your kids fail in school. They need to know. Yes, you're being evicted. Of course, they need to know. Your boss made you mad at work. Why do they need to know that? It's enough that you have to spend your phone calls and your visitation on the things that you have to, okay? And that's another thing. Like the first couple of months, that's all they're going to be talking about. Call my lawyer, call this. And you're going to be wanting that love and attention. And it's not that they don't want to give it to you, but they are reaching for freedom, okay? So my second piece of advice for you would be that, okay? Just know that things are going to get better, okay? They're going to get better as they're there. But don't take these things to heart, okay? Something else that's very, very important is commissary, okay? A lot of people say, well, they know I don't have any money. Then give what you can. $5, and I understand the processing fee is usually $5. $5, though, to them, if they can get stamps and a little bit of coffee, okay? That's all they need. Stamps and a little bit of coffee, they can hustle and bustle, okay? They can hustle and bustle. Commissary is critical, y'all. And I know you say, well, they get 3 meals a day. They have cut back so much on calories and the food that it's very, very hard for them, okay? So commissary that doesn't mean you have to give them hundreds of dollars a month. $5, $10, $15, $20, what you can handle. Don't let them manipulate you into more, okay? That's another thing you can do for them. Something else that I really encourage is don't pay debts, okay? Don't pay them. You say, well, you don't understand that, they're indebted to them. You know what? There are going to be people on this that have lost loved ones in the system, and I can't even describe that. Like I can't even imagine that. Okay, so this one doesn't go for you, and I know it's fearful. And you say, well, what if they? I only know of maybe. And I have been doing this a lot, like 34 years I've been dealing with this. And I've been dealing with visiting my son's dad, visiting other people, my son being in, okay? But I only know of about 5 people that have personally, I know, that have died in the prison system. And my heart goes so out to those people. I can't even imagine. But normally it's a butt kicking that they're going to take, okay? And I know you're saying, well, I don't want them to take that. They almost have to take that to let people know you're not going to run over me. A lot of times, okay? That doesn't mean always. So they have to know from the get-go, don't get indebted. Because I know people who have gotten indebted, their family paid. I know people who have paid thousands and thousands of dollars to keep their loved one out. Because once you pay that first time, you're just indebted to that. What?
Can I give Adam a couple of my shoes?
No, not right now. I'll talk to you in just a little bit. Sorry, y'all. My son has a friend over. But don't do the indebted, okay? Don't get indebted, because if you do that, you're only harming your loved one even more, okay? So don't do that. That's exactly, you do 25 to 30 a month, and don't exactly, Courtney, don't pay debts. Don't do it. And I know you think, well, I don't want him to get hurt. I'm worried about him. Maybe you're going to watch this later and you've been scammed out of money. You've been taken for money. You've been, in the position that I'm talking about. Don't give money to anyone you don't know, okay? Because what's happening there is they're making them pay. They're making them pay to use the telephone. They're making them pay to, to eat. They're making them pay. Do you know, somebody told me the other day in the Hughes unit in Texas. So if anybody comes across this and their loved ones in the Hughes unit in Texas, ham salad was on the menu. So it had mayonnaise, and he said it had some corn in it, and, all this kind of stuff. And then they put the ham on top. So they called it ham salad. Do you know that the inmates that worked in the kitchen was, charging them a stamp to put the ham on the top? He said, no, I just did it without ham. He said, because it just made me so mad. But that's what they're doing in there, okay? So, $40 a month, exactly. And $40, he can take it and make $80. And I'm not promoting that they, should do anything, but they're going to have a side hustle. Okay, so if a lot of you don't understand what a side hustle is, they're going to have something that they do, that they all do it. And I'm not saying illegal stuff. I do not promote anything illegal. But if they're cutting hair, or they're, whatever it is that they're doing, now I think it's wrong to a stamp for the ham. I mean, that's wrong. That's stealing from the state. But don't even let me go there, because that's a whole nother topic that I'm going to be talking about soon, is corruption in the system. But we're going to keep this one topic a week, okay? And we're going to call this SEAM, and we're going to support, and we're going to educate, and we're going to advocate, and we're going to motivate on this page. This is what this page is going to be. It's going to be support each other. We're going to educate each other. We're going to advocate, and we're going to motivate. Okay. If it's not in those four, I'm not interested, because that means drama free. That's why we keep this group, drama free. But anyway, so that is something that's very important, okay, for them, is to have their side hustle. They might cut hair, they might iron people's clothes, they might, clean their clothes, they might, cook them a meal, cook them a burrito, make, get the ingredients to make a cake, a prison cake, and then put it together and, and serve that to someone. And that's like their little hustle. Whatever. I mean, that's what they do. So if they have a little bit to work with, and then they have some to work with. And if anybody else has some topic, some things that you'd like to say, of what you can do to help your loved one when they get locked up in the beginning, encourage them. Okay, encourage them. Don't, well, I told you shouldn't have been running around with those guys. Well, I told you that you shouldn't have been doing this. And, they're there. Okay, it doesn't matter what we told them and what we know that they did wrong. What matters is what's going on now. Okay, so something else, and I know a lot of you are like, there's no way, I can't get a lawyer, is if you can have a yard sale, if you can do whatever you can do to get a paid lawyer, do that for your loved one, okay? It's literally the difference between life and death. I know people who didn't have a lawyer that got sentenced to life, and I know people who did have a lawyer that got 5 years, okay? So that is the difference. So I can't decide. There's, people message me all day, every day about pro bono lawyers. They don't exist, okay? The only time that pro bono lawyers that I have found in this exist is if it's something of abuse. It's something that's really hot like when they did the clemency 2014 and Obama was releasing people on that. Lawyers to get up and running and stuff would want, the connection won't stay. I tried. So It just doesn't exist. But you can do a lot of that footwork for them. You can write letters of support. You can, Google things. You can go to, thelawlibrary.com or whatever it is. Go to try to find. And Courtney, you are so right. Communication is a must. Okay? It's a must. And you have to remember, too, how they're going to communicate with you is not necessarily how you're going to communicate with them. So if you have to maybe stop them and go, hey, let's take a minute to take this phone call, to not think about, calling a lawyer or calling the DA or calling whatever it is. You got to calm down. Sometimes you got to bring them back to reality rather than resisting them. Sometimes you have to be the one to go, I'm here. I'm here and I'll listen and we'll get through this. My son went through, some county jail time that there was no end in sight. There was no hope. There was no end in sight. I would go to visitation because they were not allowing them to go outside, even though it was against the law, which I did advocate and get that changed there. They started going out. He was white as a ghost. He was white as a ghost, white as this little lamb that I have. And I would sit behind that visitation. Do y'all remember this lamb? That was lamb chop. I love that back in the day when they had lamb chop. But I would sit there behind that for 2 years. And this was about 6 months of it. And I didn't, that 20 minutes seemed like an eternity. It seemed like an eternity. And I had to be able to communicate with him. He'd be like, negative. And I would just say, I know right now, I don't even know what to say to you right now, but it's going to be okay. One way or the other, it's going to be okay. And that's all you can say sometimes. Let them vent. Let them vent. If they're negative and you're like, I'm tired of it, they're negative. That's another thing you can do for them. Just communicate with them and say, I know you're hurting. I'm hurting too. And it's validated. But we're going to get through this. We're going to get through this and it's going to be okay. Even life sentences, I feel like it's going to be okay. And so we have to learn to forgive and never be ashamed. That's another great one. Is you have to forgive them. So many people message me and say, but I don't know how to forgive them. Maybe it was the crime was against them. Maybe, they really put you in a financial situation. Like now you've got the kids, you're working, maybe they were making the car payment. Maybe, they were hustling and making money or whatever it is that they were doing. You see, y'all, I get choked up on this stuff because I've lived it. I've lived it. That's why I could sit here and I can say, I feel it here. Hey, Emily, I'm so glad you got to go see your family. But I feel it here. And because I've lived it. And so you have to forgive them, okay? And I know a lot of people say, well, I can't tell my boss. I'll get fired. I'm not saying that as far as being ashamed, but don't be ashamed. Almost 6 million are incarcerated now in America, okay? And how many loved ones do you think that is? If you lined up 10 people in a room, they say 7 of them are affected by incarceration in some way, shape, or form. I don't know exactly where that statistic comes from. I read it the other day, but I think I would hold it true because you see it and it's more prevalent than you think. I'm not saying go out and stand on the rooftop and hold a sign up that says, my son's in prison, my dad's in prison, my brother's in prison, my granddaughter's in prison, my sister's in prison, the person that I love and that I depend on is in prison. I'm not saying to do that. Don't be ashamed. Hold your head high. Know that you're fighting for y'all and fight. That's all you can do. So forgive. You've got to learn to forgive. That's something I think we need to write a study on. Everybody could send something in and we can publish it. And not to go make millions, but to spread awareness that we've got to learn to forgive. We've got to learn to forgive them. And that's something that I didn't do with my son's dad. I just couldn't forgive him. And the last time he got out, which was in 2013, the very end, in 2014, he looked at me after years. We've been doing this since 1984. And he said, can't you just accept me for who I am? Can't you? Please. I'm a meth addict. I've been in and out of prison my whole life, mostly in. You chose to move on, which I did, but we always kept in touch. I always kept in touch. I always put money on his books, no matter who, what, where, how. that was something I always did, but I knew. And he looked at me and he said that, and I went, you know what? I said, yeah, I can't accept you for who you are. And he died 2 months later. Don't live with the guilt, because I don't have guilt, because I did accept it. And in my heart, I truly said, I'm going to accept it. So you've got to accept the situation. You can't get up every day and go, it is what it is. And I know some people just despise that saying. But let me tell you, it is what it is right now. Have faith, live by the day, and keep going, okay? So that is a huge, huge tip, a good one. So we're going to say something else that we suggest that you do for your loved one is learn to forgive them and learn not to be ashamed of them, because that's how they feel. And let's say, I was starting to get educated when Mike, had went in, and a few years later, about 4 years later is when I decided, 5 years, I wanted to go to college. And he knew, and he felt as though he felt ashamed. Like I would be ashamed of him to other people. They feel very inferior when they're there, okay? So let's see. We are in Kentucky, and that's what they are doing here, not letting them go outside. He was in county. We're definitely going to talk 1 week, y'all. Not that I'm not addressing that tonight, but I want to address exactly what the topic is. But we are going to address corruption within the prisons and what we can do to help that. Put your topics on there. I'm going to be doing this every week. I'm going to start bringing some of y'all on live. We're going to do them together. I just want to kind of get the feel of it right now. I've gone live a ton, but I want to do it on topics because so many people come to me later and say, what can I do for my loved one? And I can send them the YouTube link and say, this is what you can do for them. So that's why I don't spend like a lot of time on these, going back and forth. If you guys are saying things, it's not that I'm avoiding what you're saying. It's just, I want to stay on topic. Okay. You must have to let it go. You have to let it go. And I know you say, I don't know how to let it go. The only thing that I can say to you there is trust God. And I know some of you aren't believers, and I respect that. And I respect anyone but that's what worked for me. That's what I'm going to tell you is worked for me. And it worked. It worked. My son was looking at 25 to life when he first started. And it worked is all I'm going to say. And it's amazing how it worked. Okay. And that, again, that's another thing. The thing that we say over and over is I am not going anywhere, even if my feelings say to run. And if you know that you love that person, especially if that's your child or that's that's an immediate family member, and I had no other choice but to leave. He would not stop going in and out. Like he went in and out, one time was a 10-year. And if you read my story, I published a book that was stories of mothers of the incarcerated. It's called Shattered on Amazon. Shattered, Jody Rose. Look it up. And I talk about it in there. And I tell you, I waited. I tried. I'm not saying be a beating post for years after years after years. But but this never left. It never left. And he knew it never left. And I am so happy in my life. And I'm so happy that my life turned out like it did. But it didn't have to be that way. But he just wouldn't stop. So repeat offenders, we'll talk about that in another live too. Don't be. Always say I love you. Exactly, Darcy. Always say I love you, because you might leave on a bad note. I'm tired of you talking to me like this, but they're just venting. That's who do we vent to? When we vent, we usually vent to the person we love and trust the most. And I'm not saying, again, to be a beating post, but I'm saying we've got to always tell them, I love you. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. That's all they want to hear. I did jail ministry at a maximum county jail in Texas for a couple of years. I went in every week. And 1 week we were going to go in and do this little round table discussion with the women. And I said to the women I was doing ministry with, well, what do I say? And she said, don't say anything. Just listen. Just listen. I learned so much from that statement. Just listen. You know what I mean? Sometimes all we have to do is stop. We don't have to be. And I'm very boisterous and I want to be right. But I've learned through the years, just stop. Just listen. That's another tip of advice. Always say I love you. Always Stop and listen. Maybe not always. Sometimes we have to, but listen to what they're saying and how they're saying it. I want to give a quick example for that. I have an incarcerated loved one that he's been in segregation for 7 years. Some of y'all know, 6 years, going on 7 years. He got out in general population recently, but he would freak out. They would move him about once a year and he would freak. And then once he got more people on his, advocating for him, he writes to other people now and they'll message me and say, oh my goodness, he's, and I'll just say, just give it a few days. Just give it a few days. And I promise you, after I get about a second letter from him on week about 2, he's okay. You have to remember the whole thing, you guys, about changing your environment. I was just gone for 2.5 weeks and it was brutal on me and my family. Not because we didn't want to be there, not because we don't love our family, but we're sleeping on couches and we're sleeping on air mattresses and we're sleeping on, this, and we're crammed in, 1-bedroom apartments with 8 people. You know what I'm saying? I was going crazy. Just think about what they're going through. They have to adjust, okay? So that is very, very, very important. Darcy had a time when the phone cut off before we could say, I love you. And then he was transferred. See? And so even say it before the phone's cut off. I love you. It's going to be okay. I support you with that. I encourage you. Go take programs. Go take classes. Go to church. Talk to other inmates. Don't do things that are illegal. But I trust you and I love you and I accept you for who you are. Those are the things they want to hear. And that's the things we want to hear. And you say to them, then you have a leg to stand on when you say, I'm there for you. Be there for me. Don't talk to me like, like I don't matter. Don't talk to me like you're going to order me around because you're stressed out. And that's where the communication lines start really starting to get better. Okay. So stay calm. Exactly. Emily's saying she accepts the fact. I accepted that early on. My son's dad affiliated early on. He was 19 years old when he affiliated and 49 when he died. We lived that for many, many years. My son didn't, thank God. But I lived it. I lived it for years. My son didn't have to because he wasn't in a maximum or even a medium security prison. He was in a pretty hardcore county jails, and he was in, his prison is prison. I'm not discounting that at all. And it was rough and it was hard. But I get that. And you've got to accept that. Not, I don't accept when they're, doing drugs and stuff. But you know what? If I send you money and you do drugs, that's your stupidity. If you get caught, you're probably going to get thrown in the hole. That's the way I look at it. Okay. So don't, and don't for yourself, don't start conjuring up things in your mind. Like, oh God, they're going to get life and this is happening and they're going to mess around with a CO. And I just know, and stop imagining things and driving yourself crazy. Again, that's a different life. You know what? And that's what my son told me, Carrie, is her son told her, I'm sorry that I disappointed you. But you know what? You just tell him you didn't disappoint me. And you tell him I hated it because you disappointed yourself. And that hurts me as a mom. You didn't disappoint me. Because I'm going to tell y'all, my son's out, as most of y'all know. And his life's changed for the good. My son is, one of the few that are going to make it. So many don't because they don't have support. So all of you out there, we have to give them support because I'm telling you, these are happy tears, but they're also heartful tears for all of you watching because this hurts. I know this hurts and it takes a long time to heal from this. I want to take another, I tell stories and that's what I think some people, can understand. But my daughter, I was just in Texas and my daughter, she's 29 and she still, wants to spend time with me. But she wanted to watch that Central Park 5. I watched the first 3 with her. And while I'm sitting there, I'm just inside. And even though I do criminal justice reform, but I'm just crying. And I don't, my granddaughter, my daughters and my granddaughter's there. My husband's there. And I don't want to just sob. But inside I'm sobbing. And I'm not sobbing for those Central Park men. Yes, it's very sad. But they've all been out for 18 years. They're millionaires now. And it is sad. But that's not why I'm sobbing. I'm sobbing because they're all, cheering at the table at Christmas. And afterwards they do a toast. And the grandmother says, I can't celebrate. I can't celebrate until my family's back together. I can't. And so I get that. I get that part. And it's raw to us, okay? But they need that support. They need it, because if they have that support, their likelihood of succeeding afterwards is so much higher than if they get hung up on or cussed out because they're being a little bit, mean, or they're told, I knew this was going to happen. I told you this was going to happen. Why did you do this to us? Why did you do this to our family? And I understand the women's point of view, because I raised my son his whole life without his dad. He was in and out, mostly in. But I never ate his guts out about it, because what could he do? What could he do? I just did it. I made it work. And so, yes, I have done Kairos, and I love Kairos. I love that. And I'll talk about that too on, you have to urge them to go to church, go to classes. If they can't go to church and go to classes, send them books. That's another thing that my suggestion to you is send them things. And you might say, well, Jody, they don't let them have books. Send them printouts. Send them a postcard a day. Send them a little letter a day with some poems of encouragement on there. Send them Bible verses. Message me and we'll send them something. Send them, and I encourage you, if your loved one is in the hole, segregation, the shoe, whatever the facility where your loved one is refers to it as, but it means to be segregated from all the other inmates. They might be there for disciplinary, they might be there for protective custody, they might be there for other reasons, but write them. That is the only line of communication that they have, and it takes 2 to 3 weeks to get a letter. Write them every day. If it's just, I love you, that's it. 50 cents a day, instead of they're not using the commissary anymore. Write them. They need encouragement. That's the only thing that's going to keep them going. They have to have encouragement. And that's one thing. I don't feel guilty about things that I look back now, and I do feel bad, because I didn't understand when Mike was in. I'd be so mad at him because I wouldn't hear from him. And it was only because he was in segregation, but we didn't have all the, social media and all that. So encourage them and write to them and send them things and send them magazines and send them things off the internet, because their life depends on it right now. Their life depends on it. Whether they're going to stay encouraged or they're going to give up, their life depends on it. Exactly, Emily, when they don't call and everybody thinks, oh gosh, they must be, stay calm. They're okay. 99.9% of the time, they're okay. And again, there's been that 1% that is 0.1% that it wasn't okay. And that again rips my heart out. But most of the time they're okay. Okay, they're either on lockdown, they don't have money, their phone's not set up, they didn't call that day, they couldn't get to the phone, the person who runs the phone didn't let them get to the phone, they got thrown in the hole. Don't freak, because if you freak, they freak, okay? So don't do that. It's, you have to. And that's the thing, is about enjoying life, okay? I don't even know what to tell you about that, but you have to remember the other ones that love you around you, okay? The first Christmas, I laid on the couch. And I'll be honest with you, I laid on the couch on Tylenol PM because I just wanted to sleep and I had nothing to sleep. So I took 4 Tylenol PM to lay on the couch on Christmas Eve when the whole I looked a wreck. But that was okay. That was the first Christmas. I'm not saying it's okay to take 4 Tylenol PM. I didn't take them all day. And that is, Carrie, that's so true. You're dying to live. I remember a time that I was dying to live. I was dying to live. And I had so many medical conditions that were coming up. And if your immune system's down, you're going to be down. So, and I know you say, well, what do I do? You know what? I watch Stephen Furtick, Elevation Church. I read. I listen to music. I say a prayer. Let me tell y'all, okay? We were gone for 2.5 weeks, okay? 2.5 weeks. And like I said, well, actually 3.5 weeks because we were in Myrtle Beach the week before for my daughter's dance nationals. we come out, okay, and we weren't, it wasn't a 3.5 weeks of being comfortable either. We were on beds, I mean, 4 of us in, queen size beds, couches, spooning on couches, air mattresses, house to house, apartment to apartment. I've already told y'all that. And, wow. So, I don't even know where I was going with that, y'all. I'm just so all over the place. Okay, let me see what else we were saying. Y'all, if you, wherever I was going with that, somebody catch me up on that. Yes, it's so, Annie, I can't imagine, because you've been doing this with your son for a long time. And you take one day at a time, and it's one day at a time, Yeah, that's, yeah, I don't even remember what I was saying about dying to live, but all I know is, wow, I was dying to live. It was, I was talking about, yeah, see, there we go. I was talking about that first Christmas. And I think it's okay for a little bit. But I think then so many medical problems arise. Thank you, Carrie, because I thought of that. And you're only hurting the other loved ones around you and yourself, okay? That's all you're doing. And that's what I was talking about is, I watch Stephen Furtick. I listen to music. I watch Elevation. I study. I read. I do the things. I don't sit and let my mind, I can't do that anymore. I cannot do that anymore. And I was telling y'all, about a minute ago about the Central Park 5. So she wanted to watch that last one, and I couldn't do it. And she was so disappointed in me. And it made me feel bad because she really wanted to watch that. But she didn't, even though it was her brother, and she loves her brother, and she, kept in touch with her brother. Yes, and that's what, that's what I was saying, Cindy, as we get out of our realm. And, and the holidays are brutal, but we have to remember about the others. That's what I think, actually getting at. We have to remember the others. I couldn't bring myself back there again. So you have to do what works for you, okay? And that doesn't mean lay in bed and cry every day for years and years and years. You can't. Yes, it can, Lane. I am big time. I am. We've gone there before with that. I can feel it even through people that are online. I get it. A lot of people don't. I do. I get that one. I'll have to tell me and you'll have to share some stories. Yes, that is exactly right, Courtney. You are no good for them or the other ones around you. Yes, and I'm going to share some more stuff about Kairos because they're awesome. And that's what I did. I got into prison ministry. We did a lot of prison ministry the first 2.5 years. And now I do this, and I stay busy doing this. That's wrap yourself up in some other things. Do advocacy, do prison ministry, do jail ministry, contact Kairos, I think it's .org, contact the chaplain, start your own program, start an inmate support group within your church or your building for loved ones of the incarcerated face-to-face. We would love to launch that in 2020. That has really been just a vision of mine for so long. Yes, I've heard that women's Kairos is so good. I've been to Women of Christ, go to Christian concerts, and maybe you go, well, I'm not really a believer. You know what? There's other things you can do. Go out in the woods, get massages, go, do what you do. But you've got to step back and say, what can I do to be better for them? You've got to do that. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of give y'all some ideas of things that we can do. I'm going to try this out for a couple of weeks. I'm going to be going live in between too because I have so much I want to talk to y'all about. I want to do some more of the videos of nature that I was doing before I went to Texas. I want to tell y'all about my Texas trip, but I don't want to make this. I only want to make this about what the specifics are because once it's put on YouTube, that's what it's labeled. I want it to stay around that, okay? So it's not that but we will have some open discussions very soon. If you guys want to go live, you're more than welcome. Just shoot me or one of the other admins a message to let them know when. Try to keep it on topic, or not even on topic, but just don't start selling paparazzi or something like that on the live or trying to do. It's more of, to do this, is to help others, overcome this. And to not maybe necessarily overcome it, but to be able to deal with it and live with it. Okay. So, if no one else has anything on the topic of things that we can do to help our loved one when they're locked up, mainly, in the beginning, then, I'll close now. And like I said, we'll be, stay tuned because we are going to be doing some open stuff. I'm also going to be doing, you use the Zoom app, and we're going to be doing, I want to start a weekly Bible study. So the best way to do that is with the Zoom app, because then different people can pop on at different times and we can see them and we can talk to each other. So y'all be looking for that, okay? It's not hard to do the Zoom app. It's just that everybody has to have it to be able to do that. So I'm definitely going to be doing that very soon, and that's going to be geared also towards a specific topic. We're going to do it on Wednesday night for those of us who don't have a home church. I did for years and years and years, and ever since I've lived in West Virginia, I'm EFAM on Elevation, and I'm hooked on that. So we can do a Wednesday night. This way I can get mine. You can get yours for those who are interested. So stay tuned for that, okay? So y'all have a great night, and if you think of anything else, put it in the comments, and we will address it. But we'll be doing this every Monday night. It won't always be me, because like I said, and we're also going to bring, I think I can bring one other person onto the live, so I'll be messaging some of y'all, or if you have something that you think of that you would like to cover, we'll cover it together, and we'll both be live, and it's pretty cool how we can talk back and forth. So stay tuned for that every Monday night, 7 o'clock Eastern. I'd like to keep it at that time, and then we'll be doing some other stuff. So y'all have a great rest of your night, and I'm going to enjoy mine as well. Peace out.